Good evening. I'm going to call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission for a regular meeting on Tuesday, May 21st, 2024. Please join me in prayer. Dear Lord, we ask your blessings today. Bring us together as a body as we consider the business for the city. Help us to make good decisions that are beneficial to all the citizens. Help us to find plans that are easily implemented and can be monitored for the benefit of the city. In your name we pray. Amen. Please join me in the prayer and the pledges. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. God bless Texas. Okay, I welcome the public being here tonight. It's good to see so many smiling faces. So the first order of business tonight, item number 4, is we're going to swear in a couple of new members of Planning and Zoning. And we look forward to having you join our team. So with that, I'm going to invite Judge Russo to come forward and do the honors. Yeah, just go ahead and do it. Okay. Mr. Packer, I think you'll lead the way. Or Mr. Dean, however you want to do them together. I don't care. Whatever the... All right. We do things fast and easy around here. So I want to welcome Mr. Dean, Mr. Packer to the Planning and Zoning Commission. For the public, they're joining as alternates because of the way the ordinances lays out. The newest members join as alternates, which would mean Mr. Ritz is now elevated to Planning and Zoning. So congratulations. And we'll make Tom be on good behavior now as a result of that. And so with that, any of the commissioners, fellow commissioners, wish to say anything on okay. All right. Okay. And with that, we'll move on to item number 5, citizens' comments. I didn't have any forms, but I would encourage any citizens that want to say anything, offer any concerns, any thoughts, any praises for the commission. We accept everything. Okay, so none heard. I'm going to close that item and move on to item number 6, approval of the minutes. 6.1, this is the P&Z minutes for the April 16th. I ask for a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
Accept the minutes.
All right.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? None? None? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Aye. All right. Let's show that unanimous. Okay, with that, we'll move on to item 7.1, items for consideration. Move on to item 7.1, consideration and action at the request of Jared Riggenback, McLendon-Chisholm Commercial Holdings Incorporated, for the approval of a preliminary plat that provides for the development of one commercial lot, which at build out shall be a O'Reilly's Auto Parts store. Just to amplify for the public, that will be on the south side of the Brookshires property. as you move down 205 on the west side of 205 going south. So with that, I'll turn it over to staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. So the request is, the applicant is requesting approval of a preliminary plat that provides for the development of one commercial lot, which at build-out will be an O'Reilly's Auto Parts store totaling approximately 7,480 square feet in size. So it's located south of the intersection of 205 and FM 550, immediately adjacent to the Berkshire's property as stated. So the staff recommendation is approval subject to the following conditions: just a revised drawing scale for the 1 to 200, and then a furnishment of a water service plan from the applicable retail service provider. We have been in contact with O'Reilly's, so we have a bit of an issue here with the CCN overlap. So they are in High Point CCN, however, RCH does own that water line, that main, and so they're in talks now to get RCH to provide them water and to have High Point provide some sort of letter saying that it's okay for them, RCH, to provide water. So that is something that we're working through internally. And I do believe that we do have representation from O'Reilly's. If there's anybody here from O'Reilly's that would like to come up to take the podium and answer any questions from the commission.
Please just state your name and address for the record. Okay. So, do you have anything to address before we get to questions? All right. Sir, I'll just ask you also to, when you speak next, just to turn a mic on. Somebody can give you a hand there. You can tell it's not on the little, yeah, thank you. Okay, first I'll consider a motion, or we'll ask for a motion for consideration.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the preliminary plat that provides for the development of one commercial lot, which at build-out will be an O'Reilly's Auto Parts store totaling 7,480 square feet in size. Development is located south of the intersection of SA 205 and FM 550, immediately adjacent to Brookshire's grocery property, with the following subjects and conditions: a revised drawing scale equaling 1 inch to 200 feet, and then furnishment of a water service plan for application of retail service provider as stated by staff. Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, so now open for discussions. So I'll just start with the commissioners, and anybody want to lead off the way here?
Can you give us an update on the water plan? Is that Asa? Is that you or Jared? Can one of you give us an update on how those talks are going?
I'm not aware. I'm not aware of those talks. The civil engineer most likely is handling that.
And I had a conversation with them at the latter part of last week. I believe it was Thursday afternoon when we coordinated about the CCN overlap. I know that they had been in talks with RCH. When I notified them that they were in High Point CCN, they had already been in talks with RCH, and that was the determination was we were going to go ahead, since they own that water line, that if they could provide a letter, if High Point would furnish them with a letter saying that it was okay for RCH to provide water within their CCN, that we would go ahead and let RCH do that. The civil engineer who I talked to last week said that RCH was going to provide their letter, their letter this week, and they were going to contact High Point this week to kind of get that negotiation started. But I know that they are already in talks with RCH. They had not started any talks with High Point. They're supposed to start that this week to get that letter.
So I'll just remind the commission that per our ordinance, preliminary plat does not require a definition of water service at that time. It's something we have discussed within the city of moving forward from the final plat will require that. But in the preliminary plat, it's just, it's not a necessity beyond showing basic infrastructure location. So the fact of the relation, or if High Point would release this property from its CCN and RCH release it, so RCH could be the water provider, is, you know, something that has to be done, but it's not, yeah, it's, well, that would be the, that would be the requirement, yeah. I don't want to speculate. I don't want to speculate on that. I'm just reminding the commission that there is a preliminary plat, so I want to make sure we act on the preliminary plat itself. So, I don't know. Any other? Tom, any comments? So I just want to confirm all the setbacks, everything is in accordance with ordinance.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I think we certainly want to get moving forward with our business development. So I know there's no concerns, and it'll save me driving up to Rockwall to go buy basic parts, which will be useful. So, okay, with that, I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, show that unanimous. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Have a good evening. Okay, moving on to item 7.2, review and discuss ordinance, the zoning ordinance update for single-family SF 1.0. So for the commission, what we're going to do tonight is the ordinance draft has been provided by staff. Asa will describe that in a minute. But the in terms of the commission, we're not taking action on this because the next step would be to provide our input, and then at the next P&Z meeting we'll have a public hearing on this to create this create the SF zoning district, which will require a modification to ordinance, which will then be, once we act on that, will be forwarded to the city council for their action, and that will also accompany a public hearing and action. So, but what we want to do tonight is get all our thoughts out so that at the next hearing, we can actually, when we do the public hearing, we're going to act, we're going to have an exception to the policy we have, which is to allow for the public hearing and take action on the same item, because this is, as we've noted, is a requirement a need to get in alignment with our comprehensive plan with our ordinance for 1 acre lot size. And that would eliminate the need in the future for have a P or whatever if it's a conformal property that's being developed in 1 acre. Okay, so with that, we're not going to vote on it tonight. I'm going to go poll each of the commissioners. You can then provide your feedback after Asa gives his staff report. So Asa, I'll turn it over to you.
So this is just a draft of the SF 1.0. The main thing that I'd like to discuss would be the area requirements. I know for the minimum lot depth, it's 150 feet. I know that there had been some questions around that. The general description, the permitted uses, those are kind of standard. So it's off-street parking, accessory building, all of those things will conform to SF 1.5, so nothing has changed. The only thing that's changed here is the area requirements. I know that there was questions around the 150 for the minimum lot width and kind of where that came from. So that was actually in the comprehensive plan. Page 44 under master plan communities, when we're talking about desired development characteristics, it said that there would be a minimum of 150-foot lot width for all residential uses. And so since this is the minimum that we're going is 1 acre, 150 feet will be the setback, and we'll have nothing less than that in the city with 1 acre developments or anything of that nature. And with that, I would be happy to take any questions, any thoughts, any revisions that you'd like to see for this ordinance.
I'm just going to move commissioner to commissioner, and I'm going to start with our two alternates. If you have any comments or questions or recommendations for modifications to staff. I'm sorry. Yeah, this just establishes what the minimum requirements would be for that zoning district. I'm sorry, I didn't. Well, what this would allow would be for a developer to have a tract of land, arbitrarily say 100 acres, in which they then lay out in that, within that, the conformal, if it was conformal lots, it would be the entire development would be SF 1.0, and they would then be able to lay out, and so the 1 acre lot configurations would then be governed by the minimum. These are again the minimum. They can be above that, obviously. Yep. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's not the, yes, I understand what you just said. We have, it's zoning, so we have, in our zoning ordinance now, we have multiple zoning configurations. 1.5 is the smallest, 1.5. And yet we have multiple developments in the city that are existing, that are basically 1 acre development. A couple of examples, we don't need to go into them, but they exist, and they were done as PDs for the most part, is how they got around it, is to create a PD. But then as we've discussed, a planned development is for non-conformal, is generally for non-conformal lots. If you have multiple, mixed use, multiple lots of different sizes, that should be a PD, not a conformal space. And this is the issue we rose directly across the street here, where it's a PD, but it's 1.0 conformal. So what would be the need for a PD if you had the zoning, which is what it's a necessary update related to our comprehensive plan. So we've asked staff previously to take that for action and develop an SF 1.0 zoning district, which then is, we would again recommend, and we recommend that then would be to city council for adoption, and then it would be a modification to our ordinance. Now, how it's applied within the city, to your point, would be then a consideration for the applicant, city staff, planner to work out, and then would come to us, and then we would render judgments. And you can render judgments then relative to zoning within if it's a change of zoning from so say hypothetically from agriculture, 100, you use your example, 40-acre configuration of change, then we would look at that configuration relative to the surrounding neighborhoods and, you know, surrounding area, and we could find concerns about certain things and ask for certain modifications, to your point. Okay. So now, with that said, do you have anything else for them? Okay. Mr. Dean? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the table is correct. The table is correct. The photograph is from the 1.5. We're working to update all of the graphics, so we don't want like the graphic that is here. It's for every zoning district, but we're working to update the graphics to present better on paper and as you look at it online. But this is from the 1.5, so the graphic needs to be updated. But we're looking at getting software that could help us with that, to just better update the graphics in general for future. Yes, so everything would, yes. So it would be 1.0, and then the minimum would go down to 1,900 square feet. Yes. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry? Yes, I got it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anything else, sir? You want me to start down there?
No, I was gonna say that answered mine.
Okay.
Sorry, Mr. Chu.
You're good?
Good.
Is this flexible enough? Is this description flexible enough for lot sizes which aren't all rectangular? You know, to have all kinds of differences. Is it flexible enough?
Yes, I would say yes. For non-rectangular, like non-conforming rectangular lots, yes.
In general, Tom, these provide, again, minimums, and it's not, all lots are not going to be rectangular. That's why you get some variances here for setbacks for the side and front relative to where that's measured. And that's also in the ordinance, which I notice isn't in this draft.
Mm-hmm.
So we would need to do that, but it does for, for example, if it's in a cul-de-sac,
Yeah.
where you measure the frontage can vary. So
Yeah, that was my concern.
Yeah.
Generally that is addressed when the developer talks with staff from a preliminary plat, and then we get to look at it as a preliminary plat as well as the final plat to make sure that it all conforms with the square footage of the 1 acre, and that there are no dead ends for fire truck, cul-de-sac turnarounds and that type of thing. So all of that is looked at if there's an odd-shaped lot. And we've had that situation before where that lot then has been dedicated as green space. So, but yeah, that's valid, very valid.
Okay, so I guess it's to me. And as usual, I'm not shy about this stuff. So besides I've obviously caught the alignment of the image with the description.
Mm-hmm.
But so the minimum lot depth in our existing 1.5 ordinance is 200 feet, yet the minimum lot size depth here is 250 feet. I guess I need to understand the difference there, or make them align. that would be, I would prefer to see our SF 1.0 and SF 1.5 for lot width, minimum lot depth, and also setbacks all conform. And I know there was some discussion about making the lots smaller, but I think for these, again, the goal here is to maintain a country look and feel. So I have great objections over the 150-foot frontage. I know we considered that in a prior action for a variety of reasons, but that would be an exceptional case. In this, I think, because to me, the frontage for a country feel, the frontage is critical. That's the 300 feet. I mean, the depth of the lot, we've had this discussion, the depth of the lot, because we're dealing with, in this case, a 1 acre lots of 43,560 square feet of lot, which that's a pretty big lot. And the other is the 1,900 square feet on a 1 acre lot. I think that would be pretty economically unviable in my mind, given the value of our lots for 1 acre lots in a city. Most likely we're dealing with homes that are going to be in the 2,300 square feet, sort of the smallest, if it would be say a single story home. But I mean, which is pretty consistent with our single story homes that exist today. And if it's 2-story, obviously, and they're going to grow from there, as depending on the value of the lot, because the map on the lot would just be, the lot would be for a 1,900 square foot home, that would be a very inexpensive home relative to that much larger lot. And I'm not. Yeah, I think it ought to conform. I think our SF 1.0 configuration and our SF 1.5 should conform. The additional half acre was always driven by septic. That was the minimum state requirement set years ago. Technology has changed now with septic. And I know, for example, I'm going to cite Kingsbridge as an example here, where there are 1 acre lots that are on septic, because the septic technologies have changed. So now you can have smaller lot configuration. So there's no need to have that extra half acre, which is when we did the comprehensive plan, the thought process for the community was that economic viability of 1.5 acres versus 1 acres. And it was just, which is why the trend line, if you look at it for all our developments, and I would, Brushy Creek, Phase 4 of Chisholm Crossing, and a number of others are 1 acre lots, is what it ended up being, because that's it's the knee and curve between affordability and having the right size home, right? Which, on a 1 acre lot, you can have pretty large, you can have a 5,000-6,000 square foot home if you so desire. And that's, but a developer, we want to set conditions so the developers are going to come in and develop high end or higher end countries look and feel to our community. So that's been the prevailing thought process. So that would be my comments to staff, would be to just, we have a good 1.5. I just repeat it at 1.0 and it would be the same. And it's the same frontages and everything else. And you live in a community like that. So.
Yeah. Can we as council make that as a formal recommendation to staff?
Yes.
To change the minimum dwelling size from 1,900 maybe to 23?
Yeah, I would. It would be easiest if we just aligned the two ordinances. So the only difference is 1.5 acre versus 1. That's, other than that, it's because once you go down a line, it's all going to line up the same way.
Okay.
No.
No,
if you want to formalize that.
No, I just want to make sure that staff takes into consideration what we've been talking about. So if it be a formal type request or an emotion, then that would be a direction to staff to accomplish that, more so than just a suggestion.
Okay,
from our part.
and so if you wish to make a motion, we have that option, right?
Okay,
Hang on a second, let me just make sure, review and discuss, yeah, I think we can do that.
can we do that? Okay. I make a motion that, we recommend to staff that the, minimum dwelling size, as well as as well as the, other specifics in our 1.5 acre homes are applicable in the 1.0 acre homes? Is that kind of? Okay.
I'll second it.
Before we vote,
Well, we have to make, if we're gonna make a motion, we need to have a second, then we can
Clarity.
discuss, yeah.
are you asking in there for a minimum 300-foot width on a 1 acre lot?
Mhm.
That leaves you 145-foot depth if it's a 1 acre. Shallow, just for thought. That doesn't mean it can be adjusted once something comes through.
So 300.
Yeah,
Yeah,
43,560.
yeah,
If you put 300-foot frontage up, that leaves you 145.
foot depth.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Which is gonna leave you in,
so what would it be, just give me a 250, or 250 foot, or 200 foot, I'm sorry, 200 foot depth.
that gives you 217.8
So a minimum width
by
of,
200.
minimum of 200 feet.
I think would be a little bit more reasonable for a 1
Yeah.
acre.
Yeah. Minimum lot width in the
Okay.
front is 200, and minimum depth could also be 200.
Yeah, with 200, 200's our minimum
Right.
depth in, for a 1.5, so I think that would be considered, it's,
Okay.
okay? So it's a 200 foot frontage. I certainly don't have any objection to that. The other was, the minimum maximum height, building height of 36 feet versus 45 feet. I didn't understand that either. It was 36 seems that's an interesting number, but, okay, so with that said, Robert, do you want to modify your motion?
Okay, would modify the motion to state that the minimum frontage would be 200 feet, minimum depth 200, minimum dwelling 2,300 square feet, and then the setbacks, rear yard 25, side yard 25, then on the street side yard 25.
Okay.
Where there may have to be some adjustment on the front from a mathematical standpoint, but that could be worked out when we look at the final draft of this, and all the math should be correct on there.
Okay. All right. Second, all right, now we have any further discussion? Okay, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, show that unanimous. Okay, Asa, you got everything you need on that? Okay, perfect. And then we'll, like as I said, we'll move on to for the public. The public hearing will be the next planning and zoning meeting. We'll go through and provide your thoughts and, on that as well. Okay, so that concludes item 7.2. We're going to move on to item 7.3, which is consider an action of potential revisions to the McLendon-Chisholm Comprehensive Plan to better address action items in the current comprehensive plan. So Asa, I'm going to turn that over to you to describe what we're acting on here.
All right, so the commission requested staff bring forward specific recommendations, including actions to be taken to amend or rewrite portions of the comprehensive plan to better align with current and future growth patterns. The Planning and Zoning Commission also requested an evaluation of items in the current comprehensive plan. So we, as city staff, are recommending the following revisions to the comprehensive plan, and so that are these bullet points here, and then an additional list of recommendations specifically addressing priority action items on pages 63 through 69 of the comprehensive plan also accompany this report. So the first section, what you have is kind of the evaluation with the chart, and so it kind of just states the action, if it was short, medium, or long term, if it started or in progress, and then kind of where we are on the far right side. And then for the report, these are the recommendations and the bullet points right here for the comprehensive plan. And then finally, at the end on page 34 through 36, those are the recommendations for the action prioritization for the comprehensive plan. And so again, this is just consideration and action, but I'm happy to have discussion. I'm more than happy to go through these or to take any of these off. I'm more than happy to add anything that you guys think are missing.
All right, so for the commission, so what we're looking at is for the agenda items, item page 20 through 36 is action items that are taken from the existing comprehensive plan. And then a category, right? Action, time frame, then the new stuff is status, and then what the recommendation is. So we have an option to go through each one of these, to go through what's applicable for planning and zoning. Not all these actions are planning and zoning related, so we can go through and discuss those that are. And then for the modification to the plan on page 32 through 30. So did I get them from getting my page numbers wrong? I'm sorry. It was page 20 through 31 is the action items, and then for the shift to the comprehensive plan will be pages 32 through 36. And that's consists of staff report for the specific items. What I would, I'll let the commissioners decide if they want to do it differently, but my recommendation would be first we go through the two memorandums of staff report, page 32, 33, and then page 34, 35, and 36, no, just 35. And go through those to understand that, because they're more encompassing, they're not specific actions. And then we'll come back to the action list from the actual comprehensive plan itself. Does that sound logical? All right, guys. All right, Asa. So let's start with the staff recommendations. So just go point by point on 32. And I just want you to address the specifics of why you feel action is needed on each of those before we decide what we want to do. How's that? Does that make sense? Yep. Okay. Over to you.
Okay. So the first recommendation would be a concise definition of what a one-of-a-kind city is and what the look and feel of the city truly is. I know in our comprehensive plan we said we want a rural oasis, we want country estate feel, but when you think of that, what does that look like to you all? I know that we've talked about boulevard streets. I know that we've talked about other things. What does that look like to you all? Or I guess what does that look like? Tell me what the look and feel of the city that you'd like to see plan look like. What I get it, the 1 acre lots, boulevard. Like I just need a more concise definition of what a rural oasis in McLendon-Chisholm is.
All right. Okay, good. You made your point there. So I think let's go through them all so we can come back and I think address it as a body.
Okay. So the next one would be expansion of commercial uses purposes with emphasis on what types of businesses the community would like to see develop. Revision of the population and demographics growth trend, property values, and consumer profiles. Revise the engagement section to expand upon the SWOT analysis with more in-depth analysis of why and how the community would like development fostered and by whom. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
It's part of the analysis that was in the comprehensive plan that led to the background, the recommendations for why the city should develop the way it should.
Revise the vision framework section to expand upon the best at and commercial opportunities with specific examples of the look and feel. Clearly define fiscal conservatism and limited government. Establish possible business retail incentives. Clearly define mobility in relation to the future land use development plan. Revise the mobility and connectivity vision to incorporate potential roadway impact fees. Replace all of the maps, the future land use, zoning, city limits, thoroughfare, stormwater infrastructure, CCN. Add electricity information to the public utilities and services. Addition of vision paragraph where services do not exist or have limited capacity, parks, libraries, police. Revise key partners section to include all city partners, state, local, federal, nonprofit, private businesses. And then revise the financing section under Chapter 6 of Implementation and Monitoring to include all possible financial tools. And yeah, I think those are my recommendations. And I'm happy to start anywhere. Or...
Yeah, I'll, having been in the comprehensive plan business here a couple of years ago, I'll give you my thoughts first, and then I'll let the other commissioners weigh in. It's a extensive list. And I don't think, based on this list, why I don't disagree with the individual items in it. It would require, you're not going to update, in my judgment, you're not going to update the individual bits and parts of the plan. It'll be, you'll deconstruct the plan to take this apart, and when you go to put it back together, it's not going to be coherent. So what I think, what I would recommend is we would make a recommendation to the city council and to the mayor and city council that in the upcoming year, fiscal year, FY25, that if we agree with staff on these issues, that we undertake that time just to rewrite the comprehensive plan and reevaluate it, because there's some ways to do the first two bullets right. For example, we could have an ordinance that has specific definitions in there of what that means. And we've had that discussion on the word desired, which isn't on your list, surprisingly enough. But all the rest of the bullets, I think, are pretty much a specific update to the plan. So again, if you start updating it, you have to sort of, as a body of work, and then they would have to, go through the process, the RFQ process, and provide that out. Presumably, I would assume that would how it go out for bid, and then go through the process with the citizenry, which as long as it involves the citizens, I'm good on that process. Okay. Because comprehensive plans generally are good for 5 years. We did ours in what was the last
2021.
2021. So we're sort of getting to the point where it's going to have to be redone anyway. So now, leave it open for discussion.
I think I agree with you too. I think this is more for the citizens to decide than us on a lot of this. Robert.
Yeah, I agree that in looking at some of this, I was wishing I had, input and, and other opinions so that I could, look at that as well, maybe in a different light or in a different way, but, it's a monumental task. I didn't plan on answering specific, bullet points tonight. I mean, I'm reading and thinking about it. I just need a little bit more time to process some of this stuff.
But, yeah.
But again, the citizen input is vital. The comprehensive plan is going to be almost 4 years old coming up. Things are changing. We've done 21 and 25. It'll be 4 years old. So by the time we get a lot of this information done, it will get closer to be time to maybe look at, and we could revise the comprehensive plan earlier than 5 years. I mean, if it needs it. I don't think trilogy was in the minds 5 years ago, was it? I don't remember. I mean, there was a lot of things that are coming in that was not in the works, so to speak, at that particular time. So, and that's,
Yeah, thank you. Anything from Mr. Packer, Mr. Dean, any thoughts? It's not a cheap process, but it was, if I recall the number, it was the budgetary number that was set aside was, for the last comprehensive plan, was 65,000 was the number that came to mind, and I know that the actual cost was less than that. It was done for less, but that, so it's not an insignificant monetary expense. So because to go through it again, if there are, this is a pretty comprehensive list, in my judgment. If there were some specific tweaks that could be done, but as we look at the future land use map, the zoning map, which is not in the comprehensive plan, separate, right? Redefinition of the city limits, the thoroughfare plan that comes up with that, that's pretty robust, and candidly, I think would exceed the limits of what staff could do today anyway, based on, just the size of our city and, the size of our staff. So it end up you've got to go out for help, right? So get a vendor. So for your staff report, the sensing we have is, and so the consideration and action, the action would be, and we can vote on this if the commission decides to do it, or we can just give them a sensing of the commission, your choice. But it's that the mayor and city council consider rewriting the comprehensive plan as part of its FY25 or year 25 budget. Everybody agree with that sort of thought? Okay, so it's a clear sense of the commission there. All right. So that would lead us to the items, and I think we're going to end up in the same place here now with the items in the second part of your consideration, Asa, but I don't want to cut you off. I want you to go through page 34 through 35. economic, fiscal and economic vitality, land use, et cetera. Just wanted to go ahead and give us what your thinking is.
Yeah. So for the fiscal and economic vitality, so the first thing would be to enter a contract with a consultant firm to produce development standards, commercial guidelines, and an evaluation of desired city services with a minimum 5-year forecasting period. And then all standards and guidelines should be consistent with the comprehensive plan and future land use plan. City staff and Planning and Zoning Commission work in unison to draft a fiscally sound economic development policy to attract 10 new businesses in 10 years. The creation or revitalization of a city economic development corporation. The Planning and Zoning Commission to create and submit the top 2 city slogans and to present those to council for a city slogan. The commission to establish town hall meeting schedule to solicit maximum resident participation. City staff and the Planning and Zoning Commission work in unison to create and update HOA and neighborhood group leaders contact list. And so for land use and design, enter a contract with a consultant firm to provide the city with development standards, public utilities and services. City staff to draft an impervious surface ordinance for the Planning and Zoning Commission consideration. Enter a contract with a consulting firm to map existing stormwater infrastructure within the city. The commission to appoint a representative to the Rockwall County Emergency Services Corporation Board. And then city staff to develop a list of infrastructure repairs in need of HOA maintenance and send letters to HOA and associated residents explaining deficiencies and responsibilities of the HOA. And then mobility and connectivity. Enter a contract with the consultant to prepare technical design modifications for the 205 expansion. The commission to appoint a member to represent the city's interests and ideas at the Rockwall County Road Consortium. Select the date and advertise for upcoming town halls. Lane Selman should definitely be there, and that's for the 205. That's specific to the 205 expansion because he's our text dot contact. Enter a contract with a consulting firm to review, revise the subdivision ordinances, and then city staff and then the commission work in unison to create a contact list of developers and community leaders to address overgrown landscaping. And then the commission working with the Board of Adjustment to create the roadway and maintenance working group. And so with that, I'd be happy to take any feedback, any suggestions, any revisions.
I think we're there to give you some. So on this list, I mean, clearly, if a comp plan is redone, then the next logic step, right, is to align all the ordinances that go with that, right? So that would be 2 separate, and that, in my mind, that should be done as part of the, if the city would move forward with an RFQ or an RFP, right, that would be the comp plan, and then follow-on work would be review of the ordinances to align with the comp plan. That makes perfect sense to me. On the economic development side, I think they're going to be careful here, but I want to make sure that I believe that's beyond the purview of Planning and Zoning Commission, right? That's not what our charter is about, land use, but we are not just, we don't solicit economic development, right? Well, we had an action on a plat today, right, that would result in economic development. That's different because we're looking at compliance. I think there is an economic development and within the city, and whether it's an EDC, configuration of an EDC, right, which has taxing implications, or something of another structure. I think that's really an action for city council to undertake. I don't believe that's ours in our purview. I understand the need for it. I just don't. I don't think we're. It's beyond the boundaries of our responsibilities, if you will. The 2 slogans. It's a great idea. I would recommend approaching that a little differently and just make that part of the comprehensive plan and let the citizens, I think, would be the best to come up with that. Looking around here, we're the grumpy old men. I'm not sure that we'd be the best ones to come up with a forward-leading slogan. Maybe Tom might. A little humor. And then the HOA, on the HOA part. So my understanding is the city already has an HOA, a relationship with the HOAs. It was created several years ago that I thought there was a designated member of city council. I am maybe way off on that, but certainly the city administrator was involved in that because we outreached on a number of the things we've done with HOAs to include roads. It's been one of the discussions, water, several others. So I thought that already existed. Again, I don't think that's within the purview of the Planning and Zoning Commission to be involved in that, and with HOAs. HOAs would be, again, great idea engaging the public, but I don't think that's in our purview. Maybe somebody wants to point out the ordinance and our authorities. I'm just trying to be respectful there, which goes back to I was chuckling at one of your definitions over here of clearly defining a fiscally conservative and limited government. Good luck on that endeavor. I think that's a little bit in the eye of the beholder, and everybody will judge what they do. Clearly, I think, virtually everybody sitting here would be considered fiscal conservative. I doubt there's anybody that would not be in that ball game, but again, we may disagree individually about what some of the, what the extent is. Which is why I'm hesitant to grow the authority of planning and zoning beyond what is statutorily directed by Texas code, because that's we're a type A city, and that's the way we're supposed to work. The Emergency Services Corporation Board, again, that's a purview of the City Council. City Council is appointed to that, a City Council member along with a member of staff. Not the purview of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and certainly we would not be invited to appoint a representative to that corporation board, right? We can't speak for the city on that point. Now, could City Council take action to ask a member of the Planning and Zoning Commission to wear a different hat and be part of that? Certainly could. That would be their decision, not ours. Same on a lot of the TxDOT stuff and the mobility stuff. We look at state regulation, we look at TxDOT regulation, we look at our zoning ordinances, we look at our ordinances in general when we're making decisions on individual land use, platting. But I don't believe it's in our purview, right, to recommend on a thoroughfare plan, for example. As a citizen, we can give our opinion, but I don't think that's in our job jar. And again, I'm not trying to grow any government here. I agree on the subdivision ordinances. That's absolutely needed, right? I think discussion we just had on the 1.0. So that would be my thoughts on the second list. I'll open it up to the rest of the commission.
Hey, so I would say 3 thoughts. The first one, I don't want to just follow in and duplicate what Mark said, but my first thought after looking at the first and the second list, first was there's a lot here, but I'm not sure it parallels exactly underneath the scope of this board. But that would be my third thought, actually. My first thought is somebody has been doing some detailed work, and I will applaud you or whoever, because you need the focus. You're not just wanting to shotgun your efforts. Somebody's wanting to say, what do you want me to work on? So my second thought is if we can help, I'm sure this board is happy to help. But some of this, I don't want to repeat what Mark said. Some of this, I'm not sure we are the right team but I don't want to speak for the board, but I'm sure that we are happy to help if there's something we can do on some of these, but I'm not sure all of them fit underneath our umbrella.
Mr. Rhodey? Tom? Anything?
There's an awful lot of detail here. And it seems like it's more bureaucracy than trying to just get to what we want to do.
This does not meet that definition.
Well, I think there's lots of, and I want to agree with you completely, right? I mean, there's a lot of effort that's gone into this to understand what needs to be addressed. I think if I prioritize this down, really, the biggest thing is the general feeling that the comprehensive plan, while sufficient, could be made better, right? And should be, right? That would be a starting point. And then the ordinances behind that. And then beyond that, the type of development, especially if we're talking about economic development, that as the city's growing, we need to do that. But I'm sort of looking to city staff and, more importantly, city council to make the decisions on how they want to do that. Because there's a couple different ways to do it. But that's the purview of council, not us. I mean, they ask our opinion, we're happy to help, right? But that's not within our charter. They would be the three biggest things in my mind. I think the HOAs are. That's we only get involved. We, the board, the commission, only gets involved in HOAs as we look at subdivision regulations relative to, zoning and ultimately approval of concept plans and the plats. Ultimately, the powers that are given to the HOAs, the city defers to them that's a decision made by the city staff and council, right, beyond land use. Which, I know several people in this room have served on HOAs.
If our goal is to revise the comprehensive plan, nowhere in here did I see anything that said, hey, here's a problem. Here's where it's deficient. Let's address the deficiencies instead of addressing the rest of the world. I don't know, that would have been the way I would attack the problem. We've gotten all kinds of things here to do, and we'd probably bankrupt the city if we hired all these consultants to do all these things. Anyway, that's my viewpoint.
I think, Tom, it's a very valid point. I mean, don't identify something in search of a problem, right? In search of a solution. We should focus on what needs to be done, right, specifically. And I think that's where if I reflect on the actions planning and zoning has undertaken and where we've hit bumps in the road relative to development, future development, it was gaps that exist between the comprehensive plan and ordinances. That's a real issue that to me needs to be resolved, and I think I've been a strong advocate for doing hiring a firm. That's just the nature of Texas. Go through, and review, especially based on each of the legislative sessions, to come away from that, make sure your ordinances are lined up. It's best practice. City of Rockwall does that every time. Updates their ordinances that do that. So, and then the comp plan is guideline, right? Clear guideline, clear necessary guideline, important guideline, but it's not zoning, right? It doesn't replace zoning. We still have zoning as in between that stuff. And that's us. Candidly, that's what we do. All right, any other thoughts over there, Mr. Packer? Any, Rich? Okay. All right. Mr. Dean, anything? Yes, sir. We have, and it's gonna push me to the limits of what I know. All right. So just, I don't want to get out of my lane here, but 205 itself, the physical expansion of it is done by TxDOT. So the putting in of infrastructure and pouring of concrete, right? The creation of the road itself. But because it passes through the city, there are certain aspects where the city has direct authority or direct relationships with TxDOT on development, and it can be for the beautification of what comes out of it, right? Landscaping, for example, because that's all included, and the same, just like the replacement of the firehouse was part of that, right? That they basically cut a check to us, and then we did all the heavy lifting on building the new firehouse. So it depends on but the actual civil engineering aspect of it, TxDOT. And we don't have any. I mean, we have negotiations with them, but that's ultimately that's their time and schedule. So does that answer the question? There's some other stuff that we have some authorities with TxDOT, and then as we discussed at the meeting in January, there was, which has never come forward, by the way, an action probably we want to get done, which was to go to TxDOT, because we do have the ability to lobby the state and then therefore set speed limits in our city. And I know there's great concern over 205 expansion and what it will do to McLendon-Chisholm once it occurs. You know, it's six lanes of traffic, north and southbound.
Have we previously done any coordination or consulting with TxDOT on turning lanes, things like that inside the city? And I'm assuming that was my assumption of what this might be talking about.
So we've done some coordination, and we're also coordinating with them on the speed zone ordinance as well. So we are kind of doing ingress, egress, kind of coordination where we have jurisdiction.
Sure.
So yeah.
Good.
That's it. You'll remember that from January, or the ingress, egress. TxDOT will allow us the authorities on that. So basically, if you're plat approving, where they put the actual entrance, we would have authority on that.
just as a citizen speaking here, though, if we don't have an active consultant in that and having some construction experience, now would be the time to put somebody in there. If whoever that conversation needs to be constructed through, now would be the time to be having those conversations. Because once they lay the curves in there, your voice becomes weaker in that regard.
Mm-hmm. And there is precedent. I'm going to build on that point. Again, I'm not sure this should be a recommendation from planning and zoning, but in conversation with staff, there are precedents in other cities where they have a experienced civil engineer who's a citizen who is given a liaison authority, right, with TxDOT, and they've actually done that at the county level as well. So with the I-30 expansion. So there might be some opportunity there to do that. I mean, we certainly have a lot of civil engineers that live in McLendon-Chisholm.
Your drainage, before they start putting in that highway and that infrastructure, they'll start putting in drainage and things. And so any layout that we are working on as a city, any slopes, any future growth that we're thinking about, we will want a consultant to be, I can assure you, having worked with TxDOT, they will welcome that information. They'll want to know what we have in the future because they're trying to get it laid out the best they can. The more information we can give them, the more influence we can have on them, the more we'll be prepared going into what we plan to do with the city. That's a good idea to keep thinking on.
Okay, any others on those two documents? Okay, so the third thing, the action prioritization evaluation. What I would recommend is we table this. The new mayor and I have talked about some of his desires in terms of setting the agenda moving forward. And since this is all that heavily gets into the agenda setting business, instead of going through each of these items, I would like to have an opportunity to sit down with the mayor and go through this list, because this is a list from the comprehensive plan, to go through it and then to help him think through as he sets his priorities. I don't want to get in front of the new mayor. He's just been elected. He deserves the opportunity to do that himself, with council. Unless somebody sees differently. Good. So we'll table that item, and I'll take that for action. Okay. Which then, let's see, that brings us to the conclusion of the agenda, huh? Item 8.1, Asa, you have something you want to bring up on the strategic plan for the county.
So the Rockwall County 2050, so we've been working on the county strategic plan. Big shout out to our chairman who has been working on this effort. So these are just the working sessions, the dates, and then the times. And so I just wanted to attach this info for everybody so that they could have this information. I plan on going to every one that we don't have a meeting on. So on the 23rd, I'll be there, and I'll be there on June 4th as well. So I just wanted to bring this to everybody's attention that these are some of the efforts we are working on. And so if you guys can come give feedback, that'd be great. So I just wanted to make that a point.
Yes, I'll put my other hat on, my county strategic planning hat. So these are the public forums that are in the agenda. There's actually one tomorrow night where the county solicits input from citizens. So one, I would encourage every citizen in McLendon-Chisholm that is interested in these specific topic areas, if not all of them, go on up to Liberty Hall between 5 and 7 o'clock on these dates and go do your input. And if not, next best thing is there's a website that's accessible here. You see the little QR code and the website. You can go in and you can literally fill out a survey, answer questions, be able to provide your input as well on, again, all these various topics, because this is all going to be part of the data set that then rolls into the creation of a strategic plan that will take place in the fall. But we're in the period of data collection, if you will, by the vendor, your favorite topic consultant. Baker Tilly is the consultant that's doing this, but they're doing that. So those dates are this is the public opportunity for the public to come out and really weigh in. So talk to your friends, neighbors, you know, and I know it's hard to go for every session, but certainly for some of them, they'll jump out more than others, based on what where your burning issues are. There, good. All right, Asa. Asa's by the way, he's on the working group with accountants. So shout out to our city planner. He's got right involved. Okay.
I think that is it, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else have any other announcements they wish to share? Okay. All right, with that, I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Okay. All right. So what we're going to do now is transition to the CIAC committee. Ask you guys to come on, join us up here. So now because we're all, or you can stay there. We're all co-equal now as we adjourn. So I'm adjourning and moving to the CIAC. So I see Kimberly Horn is with us. I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Pete Kelly with Kimley Horn, Transportation Engineer and Consultant for the Roadway Impact Fee Update.